What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So over the weekend, took a look at Jedi Fallen Order, did some impressions on it. Just about done the game at this point, but go check that video out if you're curious how that game turned out. A game from the Star Wars universe with lightsabers made by Respawn and, of course, supervised by EA, if you're curious about that one. Also did the Spawncast, of course, and took a look at some review bombing going on for Pokemon Sword and Shield. Actually, speaking of Pokemon Sword and Shield, we have our first look at some sales rankings data for Sword and Shield, and we're going to take a look at that and see how it did, even compared to some older games in the UK from the Pokemon series. Also, Anthem. It's not gone yet because I completely forgot about this game, but apparently BioWare and EA have not forgotten about it, and they have some plans going forward. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit that like button. It does help out, and get subscribed so you can stay up to date on all the gaming news going on in the gaming world. We're going to start with the Video Game Awards today because tomorrow we'll find out who the nominees are for pretty much all these. They're going to have a bunch of different categories, but the big one, obviously, most people are curious about is going to be Game of the Year. Now, we'll have, Family Game of the Year, Racing/Sports. I'm sure there'll be, Action and Shooter, and probably a few others. I'm curious if they'll do, I guess they'll do Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation games as well, best games from those systems. PC game, they'll have a bunch of them, but the big one, like I said, Game of the Year. They're doing this tomorrow, noon Eastern time, so noon Eastern at 9 a.m. Pacific. They're gonna do a full live stream like they do pretty much the past few years, and they'll go through all the nominees, and then voting should open, I assume, immediately after that. A lot of conversation is going to take place. Over the weekend, we also talked about how Resident Evil has actually already won an award. Yeah, with the golden joysticks. It won overall Ultimate Game of the Year. So it's already won an award, and a lot of people are curious if a remake could win Game of the Year. At least according to the golden joysticks, it can, and I'm curious if the Video Game Awards is thinking kind of in the same way. So a lot of conversation is going to start taking place this week all around which game should win Game of the Year. Also, if you were excited because you saw Age of Empires 4, you saw Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, which is already out, but you saw Age of Empires 4 at XO19, you got really excited, but then you kind of paused for a second and thought, well, Microsoft's been doing microtransactions and actually quite a few of their first-party games now. Gears has a whole thing with that right now. We've even seen it in Forza, of course. So what about Age of Empires 4? Is that going to be a problem? Well, no. Apparently, that won't be a thing. This is what the creative director had to say. The idea of microtransactions in a real-time strategy game isn't a thing, and DLC expansions, all of that is things we're going to be exploring for Age 4. They go on to say that a lot of the professional players don't necessarily even want new civilizations. They, I guess, just want new things added to the experience for when you're building up your different towns or just civilization in general. Things you can build towards that maybe change up the strategy in the game. Expansions, it's kind of old school now, right? The way you monetize a game further is if it's good and people want more content, they are willing to pay, again, for content that you have developed after it's released, right? Not before and then cut out after. So Age of Empires 4 is, of course, a game a lot of people are looking forward to, and hearing that there doesn't appear to be any plans for microtransactions in there is probably going to excite or at least relieve a lot of people. It is crazy that we're to this point, right, where the fact that the game doesn't have microtransactions, because it seems to be asked all the time now in interviews for newer games that we're unsure of, that ends up being news. That's just kind of where we are in gaming. Also, in potentially concerning news, Shenmue 3's embargo time seems to be very, very weird. So much so that you might actually be playing the game before reviewers have a chance to put their review out. Yes, this was tweeted out by Kirk McKean, who said, Shenmue 3 release date November 19th, Shenmue 3 review embargo November 21st, that's a new one. That is for European outlets, it appears, where in the US, for example, it will be same day embargo, similar to what Star Wars did, Fallen Order. I was playing that game before reviews even came out, and I picked it up at retail. Just GameStop happened to do a 9 p.m. Eastern release for it, and of course, reviews dropped at midnight, and hey, the reviews turned out okay, so this doesn't necessarily mean that Shenmue is going to get bad reviews, but Shenmue will probably get bad reviews. It's not necessarily a game that reviews well. We saw it with the HD collection that didn't do that great, but of course, those were games from way back in the day, right? The late 90s, early 2000s during development time, so yeah, things have changed. They mostly just moved those up, but Shenmue 3 hasn't looked great in previews, we'll say that. Some people have played it, and of course the fans are really going to like it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be critically acclaimed. So review embargo a few days after in Europe is just strange, especially like in the US, they're going to drop the day it comes out. I don't even know why they do these tiered embargo times. And guys, some of the quick things out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with the UK sales charts, because that does tell us how Pokemon Sword and Shield did in its first, Friday, Saturday, so like 2 days. I don't know if they count Sunday. I think the cutoff is like the end of Saturday. Sunday, they generally compile all of the data. Well, these would be physical sales. They don't count anything digitally. Pokemon Sword and Shield did really, really well. In fact, Pokemon Sword by itself is the best selling, just already, exclusive of 2019 in the UK. Like, already. Just Pokemon Sword. Not even counting Shield. Yeah, let's take a look at the charts here, because it's funny, they split them up, and it looks like Sword did sell better, so I guess I chose right there, so I picked Sword, much like I picked Grookey, which is also the correct choice. But Pokemon Sword, number 1, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order at 2, which I'm glad to see that there. Again, this is a game that I think should sell well, so EA can look at that and say, oh wow, people really want single-player games with no microtransactions and just a straight-up game? Interesting, okay. Yeah, so number 2 there, Pokemon Shield at 3, Call of Duty Modern Warfare at 4, that dropped all the way down from 1, so 3 games knocked it out of the first spot there, down to 4. FIFA 20, which by the way, if FIFA 20 drops down the charts in the UK, that's how you know things are happening at the top of the chart there with new games. Luigi's Mansion 3 at 6. Pokemon Sword and Shield Dual Edition, that is the steelbook, I guess, that came with both of them. It is an odd thing going on here where there are technically 3 releases of what breaks down to basically the same, like the one game, right? Just kind of split up in all these different SKUs, and some differences obviously between Sword and Shield. That one's at number 7, Death Stranding at 8, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 9, and then Mario and Sonic at the Tokyo Olympic Games 2020 at 10. Now, if you combine all of them together, so we're talking Sword, Shield, and that combo pack, put them all together, it's the second biggest launch for Pokemon games in UK history, straight up. It sold 33%, or according to GameIndustry.biz, 43% more units than 2010's Black and White on the DS. It is significantly up for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which is 53% more units than Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. That is pretty massive. The only thing that it's behind is Pokemon Sun and Moon. Of course, we all know Pokemon Sun and Moon had a pretty good launch alongside of Pokemon Go. That Pokemon Go was rolling at the time, right? And that really, really helped Sun and Moon. I mean, I remember when I was working at the store then, everything went up Pokemon. We're talking the games, the Game Boy games shot up in price. Everything. Game Boy shot up in price because Pokemon Go was so hot at the time. It's still popular, but it was something else back then when it first launched. So I think that makes sense, right? It's going to be tough for Pokemon to really ever topple Sun and Moon, although if the Switch install base keeps building, maybe the next Pokemon will do it. Not like maybe they do a remake, we'll see about that, but like the next one, the next brand new one, that could do it. We'll see about that. But Sword and Shield is doing pretty well in the UK. That I'm not sure if that's going to surprise people or not, because I think some were hoping that this wouldn't do as well, whereas it is crushing it right now. But it's still Pokemon, and let's face it, a lot of the people online are not the majority of, like, you have parents and kids and people who just aren't as plugged in, and they see Pokemon and they just got their Switch, and, well, I want the console version of the new Pokemon game, so I'm going to go get it on the Switch and put it on my TV, because that's never happened technically before, or at least built for that. You could play your Game Boy and the Super Game Boy, and then of course there were GameCube games, and you could play the Game Boy Advance games on there, but like one actually designed for your big screen, 1080p. This is the first time that's happened, so I get why there is some interest and people are excited, and again, it's Pokemon. We're not even in the holiday season. When the holiday season rolls, yes, this could end up being one of the biggest launches, like, at all for Pokemon. This could be it. So, not surprised myself, just because I know how these controversies can end up turning out, which is ton of money for Game Freak, and hopefully they take that along with the Pokemon Company and go, maybe we should improve this game further. That's what I'm hoping. We'll see about that one, though. Jedi Fallen Order, though, at 2, I think is great. We're going to have to see how it does in the MPD sales charts, because EA is going to have to probably accept that there's no revenue tail on this one. They're not going to be stuffing anything into it. What it is what it is at this point. And I'm hoping they're okay with that and let Respawn continue on like just by themselves. Don't leave Respawn alone. Let them do more Star Wars. That's all I ask there. But so far, so good for the Pokemon Sword and Shield launch. We'll see in Japan, of course, because we'll get hard numbers that we can compare to for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Oh, and while we're on Pokemon Sword and Shield, there is a very strange issue that has popped up here, and it has to do with those Roku sticks, the ones you use to watch Netflix and Prime Video and HBO Go, all of that, right? Well, there seems to be an issue between that and Pokemon. Pokemon is literally battling Roku. This is something very strange. Apparently, Pokemon and the Rokus that are on your network, the way that Pokemon works with the Wacom, where it's always sending out packets of information over the internet, apparently seems to interfere with your Roku, to the point where it will crash it and boot loop it and do all kinds of stuff. Now, I know people have talked about there being some issues with SD cards. I still need to see a little more information on that, as we've seen counterfeit cards cause these issues. But it seems that the Roku versus the Pokemon games doesn't necessarily work out on the same wireless network. The one thing you can do apparently now is you can take Pokemon Sword or Shield and put it into airplane mode, knocking it off of your wireless network, of course, and then restarting your Roku when any of this happens, and it should be fine. We seem to see Roku saying stuff about this, but not Pokemon, which kind of makes us believe that Roku will have to put something out to, I guess, ignore any of the information that Pokemon is sending out back and forth, so that your Roku doesn't get caught up in all these packets coming out from Pokemon and end up boot looping, or even it seems that it's trying to connect to Pokemon, and that's causing all kinds of issues. So we'll see what happens there. Just keep in mind, if you have a Roku on your network and it keeps doing this while you're playing Pokemon, and you can't figure out why, it's Pokemon. So if you don't mean to be online with Pokemon, just go ahead and put that in airplane mode and it should be fine, so you can watch Netflix, get on your Roku. Next up, let's talk about that Xbox Elite Controller Series 2 that came out a week or two ago. It was released for $180, and of course it is basically the new Elite controller with a ton of features added in, USB-C, built-in battery, tension on the sticks that can be changed, all kinds of stuff going on there. And the Elite controller, for some of its flaws, was still a really nice feeling controller when you would use it, had some good weight to it, it felt premium, still had some problems, but it looks like the Series 2 controller might have more problems. That's kind of an issue since it's a $180 controller. Now, I actually had gotten in contact with Microsoft and they were going to send one over, so whenever that happens, we'll rip that thing apart and see what we can establish here with some of these problems. But from what they have described, we've seen things on Reddit like the sticks drifting, stick drift, we've heard about that plenty of times, the Joy-Cons, or the stick itself getting stuck and not returning to center. The buttons apparently having all kinds of problems just going back to its normal position. Of course, you're having problems with the rubber causing allergic reactions. There are all kinds of problems. Connectivity issues to the Xbox or your PC because it also has Bluetooth enabled. So much stuff happening here for a premium, very expensive controller. So much so that Microsoft has responded. This is what they said. At Microsoft, we put all of our products through rigorous quality assurance testing. However, like any hardware, there's the possibility that a small percentage of devices may experience issues. We are aware that a small number of users may be experiencing issues with the Elite Wireless Controller Series 2 and are actively investigating with our engineering teams. We encourage any customers who experience issues with their hardware to contact Xbox support. So the one thing I will say about Microsoft, their support is generally pretty good. I've seen people get refunds for games that they have beaten just because they said they didn't like it. So Microsoft just gave them their money back. I've seen that. So things like a controller need to be replaced. That shouldn't be an issue most times. You should be able to call them and say, hey, my really nice, expensive controller, there's a problem here, and they don't have any pushback. They just switch it out for you. Of course, you have to probably wait for some shipping, or if it was at a Microsoft store, I guess you can take it back there. There's one near me that I can go to, and I'm sure they would just swap it right out, no problems. But still, a $180 controller, I'm curious how that one got through the cracks with some of these issues we're hearing, but I mean, we see this with devices, systems, all kinds of stuff that release. It's going to come down to how many people are really affected. It seems like that Reddit thread was filling up kind of quick, so based on the number of people that would probably buy one of these controllers versus how many complaints I'm seeing on it, maybe it's more people than we would figure. Maybe more than like a couple percent. You know, once you start getting up 10, 20%, then there's probably some kind of design issue at the factory level. So hopefully Microsoft can get that figured out, and everyone who bought a controller for that much money gets a good quality controller. And our last bit of news, let's talk about Anthem. Yeah, Anthem. You remember Anthem? That came out earlier this year. I know, I forgot too. Yeah, I actually, like I said, I beat the game, and I forgot about it. we're talking about Game of the Year stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, Anthem, that was supposed to be this big thing from BioWare that we got really excited about at E3, because you look like you're going to be Iron Man, but then it looked kind of close to Destiny. And it seems like it went quiet, and a lot of us figured that they were just done with Anthem. They were going to move on and call it a, just say, hey, this wasn't it. We'll try something new next time. Apparently not. According to Kotaku, Jason Schreier says, after talking with several sources, that they're going to try to overhaul this thing. They're not ready to just leave it. They're going to try to make Anthem Next or Anthem 2.0, and they're going to overhaul everything. They're planning to change up the loot, the quests, the social aspects, the difficulty, the progression system, the world, basically everything. Everything's getting changed apparently here. I feel like just the name itself is going to be tough to sell it on. I don't even know how many people are even left right now playing Anthem. Who's playing Anthem anymore? I don't know if that many people are, because after I beat it, I didn't really feel a need to keep playing. I kind of just was like, okay, I guess I'm done. What's there to do other than the same thing over and over again and really not get that much in terms of loot? Now that is something they want to overhaul, and they did do their Cataclysm expansion, their event, and now we're trying to figure out, what if they do this? Do they want to charge money for it? Because it's a live service game, and if they do want to charge money for it, that's kind of short-sighted. We have seen some games come back, No Man's Sky, right? We've seen that, and we even saw Final Fantasy XIV, which went through a very, very bad, rough patch when it first came out, really make a big 180, and people love the game now. So it's not impossible. I look at Anthem and I just say, I feel like at this point, the reputation isn't great. Like, turning around Fallout 76, no, that'd probably be harder. Okay, never mind. Anthem's still not as bad off as Fallout 76 yet, just because it hasn't done all the craziness that Fallout has. But it's going to their Austin studio, and they're going to take a shot at fixing it up, it seems. And hey, if they really have the ideas to get it done, we'll say, hey, there is one bright spot here. It seems that Mass Effect is in early development, so as long as it's not as bad as Mass Effect Andromeda, and it's going to be on next-gen systems, because it seems like it'll be a couple of years, that's something to look forward to. And we'll finish up the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This one is from Double A's Workshop saying, forget missing features, it's hilarious. Google thinks they can compete in the gaming landscape without a powerful IP under their belt. That is the most head-scratching thing that Google has done with Stadia. Like, completely. You figure they have the money to go out and get someone, it doesn't even have to be their own studio, a third party with a timed exclusive window, like a year. Think of what the Epic Game Store is doing now, but just Stadia doing it, Google doing it. Are you telling me Epic can afford to buy all of these timed exclusive deals, but Google can't muster a few? That's weird to me. I don't actually believe that, and that's why I'm concerned about Stadia as being a quote-unquote side project for Google as something to do, and they'll tie it in with all their stuff, and it'll just be another thing with game streaming rather than just video feed streaming, right? That's my problem there, and I feel like they're not all in on this. Sure, they're hiring some people from within the industry, they're building a studio, right? But why not go get Sega or Capcom to build something? Like, they can revive one of their so many IPs that they have and bring something back. If Beautiful Joe was on Stadia, would you get it? I think some people would. I do. If Mega Man Legends was on Stadia, would you go get it? Yeah, you probably would. That's what I mean. They could go out and get some different studios to bring back IPs that probably wouldn't even cost that much to build, but they haven't yet. That's strange. And ladies and gentlemen, let's go to here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything that we talked about today, whether it's Pokemon Sword and Shield's debut in the UK. It seems like it's off to a quick start with sales, but do you think that'll carry over to the US and Japan? And are you surprised that despite all of the controversy, it seems to be doing very, very well, just behind Sun and Moon that just happened to come out with the Pokemon Go craze. Also, Anthem. Can Anthem make a resurgence? Can they come back? A complete 180? Let me know about that one down below as well, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.